All right, everybody, welcome to Ignite Elements session number 3, where we're going to cover open houses. And before I go any further talking about open houses, I want to set the stage properly for this session in that we are not going to just read slides on how to do an open house. We're going to have a mastery level conversation around how do you make open houses a viable lead generation source in your business and bring a lot of real world experiences through the open house process to help your business grow. So in Ignite, which we're having a new Ignite that's going to be launched, that will be a little bit different format and some new content. I can't wait to see it. The instructors are already going through the training for it. And I can tell you that Ignite basically is an overview of running your real estate business. Everything from the very beginning of setting goals and coming up with your vision to the actual doing the open houses or getting an offer accepted or taking a listing. So the exciting part about today with open houses is the fact that we just left our annual conference, and one of the top sources for buyers finding their real estate agent was open houses. So if you think for a minute that open houses are not as much of a thing anymore, they have always been a thing. They always will be a thing. It is another lead generation revenue source that doesn't cost a lot of money to do. You just need listings. The other part that I'm going to start this conversation out with, in a market where there's a shortage of properties available and not many homes on the market, it doesn't mean you can't do an open house. So the mastery level conversation that we're going to have today is how do you make open houses work if that's going to be one of your top lead sources in whatever market conditions you have. So in a market condition where there might be low inventory, you need to figure out maybe a slightly different way to do open houses. And I'll also preface this by saying that the open house structure, at least from my normal experience in a normal market, the purpose of the open house is not necessarily to sell the house that you're sitting in. We would love for that to happen. I mean, you do the open house and you're hoping the buyer will walk in and fall in love with it and buy that house and you make a commission check. However, the odds of the buyer who happens to be their dream home and they hadn't seen it on a site before the open house and they weren't working with another realtor and they came to the open house and they're the buyer that's going to pay the most money for the house, for all those things to line up so that you understand open houses, for all those things to line up, it just doesn't happen very often. I can tell you from personal experience after doing thousands of open houses in my career, because it is a great place to meet buyers, I have sold one house at the actual open house that I was sitting in, meaning the buyer walked through the door and said, I want to make an offer on this house. It's happened once out of over 2,500 sales. Now, I will say there's probably another 100 sales that somebody came into an open house and I sold that buyer one of my other listings that might have been a better fit for them. That's probably happened 100 times out of 2,500 homes that have sold. So you do sell houses because of open houses. And on top of all that, we sold a whole ton of other buyers that we built the real estate business on other houses. They weren't our listing and they weren't the one we were sitting in, but we sold them somebody else's house. That was the core to how I built my real estate business from the beginning, because I didn't have a lot of money to market to the masses and spend money on postcard mailings and whatever else, trying to figure out the direct message to bring to them. So open houses are a way for you to meet people And when you master staying in touch with people and continuing that relationship and strengthening that relationship, you're going to cash in on any revenue or any lead generation source that you focus on. So let's move into the content here. We're talking about lead generating for buyers and sellers, because if you got a buyer coming through your house who's buying a house, you do realize that some of them have homes to sell. And most sellers who weren't planning a move, they're just driving by an open house, which is who the open house attracts. They're driving by, they see it open, they're like, huh, that looks cool. And they walk in, and it starts the moving process into gear, gets it into gear, and they start thinking about moving now. Now they start noticing open houses everywhere, or for sale signs everywhere, I should say. And it starts the process. Now, the more that we can keep real estate in front of them, the faster they'll probably move. So for those sellers that didn't know they were planning on moving till they drove by an open house and it piqued their interest, now you've got a seller who might need to sell to buy their house. Statistically, I've seen that number somewhere around 70-something percent, 73% of home buyers are home sellers as well. I don't know that I've tracked it well enough, or I've tried to track it, and I don't know if I saw that statistic, because it seems like you would get 3 seller listing appointments for every buyer that you met. And I don't know that I got that many in my personal business, but once we focused on it, the number actually did start appearing. It looked a lot closer to that by being on purpose saying, do you have a home to sell, when we were converting leads, right? So we really focused on it and figured out, man, we must have been missing a lot of listing appointments. And that part I don't understand. Didn't make sense to me. But anyway, we're going to talk about lead generating for buyers and sellers through your open houses. And in this part of the process, like everything, we talk about, what are the benefits of doing the open house? The conversations that we have with people too are the benefits. How does it benefit them? So one of the things I said at the very beginning is that you don't typically sell the house that you're sitting in at the open house. So what would the benefit be? This is a little bit different from this topic here, but what would the benefit be to the seller for us doing an open house? Because really sounds like the benefit is that we're going to meet buyers and then we can take them out and show them a house. Well, the benefit to the seller for doing an open house is 2 things that I've said. One was that 1% of the time I actually did sell the house at the actual open house that we were sitting in. So it does give them a higher chance to sell their property than if we don't do an open house, right? The second thing is that doing that open house gets them exposure to the property. Kind of lost my thought on where I was going with that. The benefit to the seller for the open house. I had 2 thoughts, and honestly, I just lost one of them. It will come back to me though. But the first one was getting that 1% chance that somebody might buy their house at the open house. Apologize for my oldness showing up today. Okay, so knocking on doors. Actually, let me back up here. The benefit for the open house is to pick up buyers or sellers. It's both. We already talked about that. The goal for holding the open house is to put yourself in the path of opportunity. If you're looking through your manual, that's kind of what we're talking about. So the benefit of the open house for you as the real estate agent is the signage. And I got this directly from Gary Keller. And it's like everything, Keller Williams. If you're going to do something, do it, go big, make it count, be bold, right? So if you're going to do an open house, I would strongly discourage you from deciding on Saturday afternoon to go throw an open house sign up Sunday afternoon and do an open house on a Sunday, for example. Instead, make it part of your marketing plan to get the most benefit out of doing the open house by putting signs everywhere. And he said, minimum 10 signs. You want signs on every major street leading to that house, to that open house, to that neighborhood. So here's something else to think about too in your strategy for open houses. When you're looking at doing an open house, maybe you're not just jumping on an open house because a realtor needs somebody to do one because it's way back in the woods and 10 miles off the beaten path, and their seller really wants an open house. That may not be the right reason to do an open house. If I'm looking for open house as part of my strategy and my lead generation method, I'm probably going to pick a listing that's in the area and the price range that I want to do business in. First thing. Second thing is I'm going to pick a house that's near busy streets or near busy intersections so that I can get signage and draw more people to the open house. Sometimes when somebody's begging for an open house, there's a reason why it's being held open, because nobody knows it's there. And we don't get paid in most cases for sitting in an open house for 3-4 hours. So you ultimately, you want the real benefit to be a commission check. However, you might be meeting people and staying in touch with them for a while before that check becomes a check, right? I'll tell you one other thing, another benefit of doing open houses, you get to meet more people, obviously from the open house, but let's even take that one step further. If I want to meet the most people possible that I can start a relationship with, that I can stay in touch with, and I'm doing an open house, typically you're going to put, I just said 10 houses that you're going to put, or 10 places you're going to put signs. You're going to put an open house sign, and maybe that open house sign says open Saturday 1 to 3 or Sunday 1 to 3. I typically will buy 100 open house signs, and because we're running a business, and if you think of it like a business, like a Starbucks business, does Starbucks change up the way they do coffee all the time, or do you get the same coffee every time you go, right? No matter how you order it, same coffee, same coffee, same coffee. So think in terms of systems in your real estate business. Like, don't just do an open house on a whim. Say, if I'm going to do an open house, I'm always going to do an open house on Sunday from 1 to 3 p.m. or whatever your time might be. It might be a Saturday 1 to 3 p.m. So order signs. I order 100 signs that have that right in the arrow. Open Sunday 1 to 3 p.m. And that's on all of my signs. So I only do open houses on Sunday 1 to 3. If I do anything outside of that, it's random. It's just doing it as an extra. I'm not going to get the maximum results, but I'll put those up on Monday. 10 different signs and 10 different locations from every busy street. If you can do signs, I realize there are some communities that don't allow signs. So that's probably not where Brad Korn's going to do an open house, because I want my 10 signs out there all week long getting exposure. Now, can you imagine if you do 2 or 3 open houses, if you have some signs that say 1 to 3 and some that say 3 to 6, and maybe even have a Saturday from 1 to 3, you could have signs on different sides of town all over the place, and it looks like you've got the whole town listed. Big thing I picked up from Mr. Gary Keller. So you want to get the maximum benefit out of an open house. That's one right there. Okay. So lots of benefits if you maximize. Oh, what I was going to say is the signs. So those 10 signs, if you're going to put a sign on a corner, why not use the most effective way to meet the most people in the community, because you're so great at capturing their information, writing them a note, staying in touch with them. Why don't you go knock on the door and say, hello, Brad, I'm holding an open house down the street. I'm sure you saw your neighbor's house. We're going to hold that house open on Sunday. And I just thought it would be courteous to ask permission before I just stuck a sign in your yard. I know living on the corner, you probably have people stick signs in your yard all the time, but I wanted to ask permission. So would you have a problem if we had that up there for a few days until the open house? Of course, this is Monday when I'm knocking on the door. And believe me, in all the years and all the open houses and all the signs that we put in the ground, I only had one gentleman say, no, you cannot put that sign in my yard. And I'm glad I knocked on his door, right? Because he would have just kicked it over and spit on it and drove his car over it or whatever. Anyway, I just went right across the street, knocked on the door. Well, yeah, sure, you can put a sign there. That's so nice of you to ask. And they get a handwritten note. Isn't this fun? Guys, does this make you want to do open house? Just that alone make you want to do some open houses, right? So again, that's signs. Signage is one thing. But the other thing, the benefit is the exposure that you're going to get if you put it on every open house website that you can find. Many people don't realize that in MLS, many MLSs have an open house field. Realtor.com has an open house field. When you fill in all of those places that have open house fields, they feed out to more websites. So that means you're getting exposure a week in advance. Remember, I said system. So we don't do any open house starting on Sunday and then we hold it open, or Saturday and hold it open Sunday. We want a week in advance. So we can get the signs up, we can get it on all the websites, we can get that filtered out there and get the most people possible through that open house if I'm going to be there during that 2, 3, 4 hour period, whatever it is. And jump in if you have any questions at any time, but holding open houses consistently is what will be rewarding. And let me hit on this because I heard this a long time ago. And it was about doing it every Sunday, 1 to 3. I mean, really, if you're starting your real estate career and you don't have more business than you can handle right now, and you don't have $1 million sitting in your bank account to go market to 1 million people, guys, this is a real estate business. Like, we make serious, nice income, unlimited income. You can pick your price range. You can pick the neighborhoods. It doesn't cost anything to hold a house open. You can meet buyers every single weekend. So make that your commitment and say, you know, and if you do something else on Sunday between 1 to 3, then do it 11 to 1, right? You can make your open house times be whenever you want. If the signs are up a week in advance and you bought them in bulk, like, again, that's a little bit of an investment. If you're going to buy 100 signs, I don't know if you can do it much less than $300, $400. I think that was the cheapest I found was 2 colored corrugated signs with the stakes, the little cheapy stakes. It was cheapy signs because you're going to lose these. They're going to disappear over a week's time. So I didn't care if I lost 2 or 3 signs every time I did one. If I bought 100, they would last about 6 months before I was out. And then I would just order some more. So it was an investment in my business for the open house part. But you can also use company ones and just buy riders too if you have some generic open house signs. But I made it a system. And I was going to put 10 out every time, or I didn't do it. I was going to put them out on Monday, or I wasn't going to do it. So I created a system and I invested in it, and that happened. High ROI and exposure. So when we talk about high ROI, your return on investment, if you're looking at the dollar value, there isn't much dollar at all invested in an open house. So your ROI on dollars through the roof. You do have to calculate your time though. So what are you doing with that time during your open house? So let me talk about that. This is a little side ROI for your time. Open houses were my office time. If there were not people coming through the open house, I was going through my database, calling people, writing handwritten notes, doing my follow-up stuff with my database during that time, cleaning up my database, touching base with them on social media. I mean, it was work mode. So you can get another ROI there just by managing your drip plans that are going on in your database until somebody comes through the open house. Qualified leads from one listing. I mean, when buyers come through an open house, we'll talk a little bit more about this. But the thing with an open house is they may not know what the price range is. They definitely don't know if it's their dream home or if it's the right number of bedrooms or all the other stuff that might happen if they're just driving by, see an open house and go, oh, honey, let's stop. That could encourage them to start thinking about buying or selling, which if you stay in touch with them after that and you get their information, then you're going to be able to stay in touch with them so that when they do cultivate into a buyer and or a seller, that you're going to be there in front of them. But like qualifying them when they come through, is this the price range you were looking, right? So write this down. I took 3 sheets with me. I took the price range below the open house. So at the price range, let's say I'm doing a $300,000 open house. I might have the 275 to 325 homes on a list, but I'll also have the 225 to 275 homes on another list. And I'll just do like the 1-line printout of what's available. There's not going to be a ton in our short market, right? But then I would do 325 to like say 450 on the next list. So that way, if they came in and they said, yeah, this is what we're looking for, but not, this is definitely the price range, but not quite what we had in mind. It's like, I could usually say, well, I've got 12 other homes within a 10-mile radius of here that are on the market, or I've got the other 2 houses that are on the market right now. They just came on this morning. Do you want to go take a look at them? Right? Take a drive by them, and I can meet you here in about an hour and a half, and I can get you through them if you like them when you drive by them. In fact, they're close enough. If you just want to pop back by and let me know, we can pull up more information on them. So that if they're in the right price range, if they said, oh, this is a little higher than we wanted, again, there's other conversations that are happening, but it's real easy for me to say, oh, well, I got a list of 7 other ones in the next range down that might be more of what you're looking for. So have you started your pre-approval? Now I can go through the qualifying part. Have you done a pre-approval yet? Have you started that process? When do you plan on moving? What's important about that date? What's important about that date, right? So those are the qualifying questions that I can ask. And then I can say, well, I can pull up everything that's in that range that's in the area you're looking and get you going on that too. So I can grab them as a buyer by offering that value. And it's a productive way to meet buyers and sellers, which we already said. So just think 3 out of 4 buyers might or should, according to NAR, own their house. So the other thing I would say, the additional benefit of high exposure, if you're talking about the signs being up all week long, one of the things that I did, I mean, again, I was committed to the real estate business. That's why I went through, spent the money on the school, spent the time to pass. I wanted this thing to work. So what did I do? I did open houses on Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday every week. I mean, that was my clock in and clock out time, because real estate's pretty flexible for the most part. So I took advantage of the free open houses, and I did them 3 days a week, no matter what. We just did them every single week. I probably took 1 Sunday off a month, maybe, but I don't even know if I did that because I wanted this real estate thing to work. Be sure to jump in if you guys have any questions. You can jump in at any time and we can take care of those. Open house prospecting model. Prospecting activity meant to generate future business, not necessarily meant to sell the house. I already told you that. One time in 30 years, I actually sold the house at an open house. Now, with that being said, some markets are going to produce a lot different results. Like right now, if there's a shortage of homes and people are 10 people, 20 people are writing offers and they're going $20,000 over asking price. If you put an open house on the market today that is still available, you might get 20 people that come through the open house and 10 people to make offers while you're sitting there because they've been missing out on properties. Now, you are going to definitely have to ask them if they have signed anything with another agent, but you are going to get agents and buyers busting down the door to come to the open house. So if there were a time where my 1%, one house out of 30 years were to be proved wrong, it'd be right now in a market like this. It makes total sense, but it is definitely a prospecting tool. So when you're doing your open houses, you want to be very on purpose and create a system, right? Set up for the open house. What is your system? Just added a buyer's agent to our team, and seller said, hey, maybe we should do an open house because they haven't sold yet, because we started their price high based on the market, and we got a lot of showings too. So I don't know that I changed the way that I did it, but they're kind of getting a little discouraged, and it's the neighborhood. Selling a house comes down to location, condition, and price, right? So if we push the price, the condition of their house is fine, although he has a ton of big furniture in there and birds. Again, no competition, so I can let something slide, but the condition or the location, the street and the neighborhood is really weird. It's like a one-way street, and there's weird houses on the street, but his is the nicest one there. And his exact house is sold for what we put it on the market for in that area. So it's not like we just randomly pluck the number out of the air, but the location is affecting the price of this house. The buyers, even with the shortage of homes, are not willing to write an offer for this area. So, but with that being said, we're doing an open house, and my buyer's agent, I asked him, I said, so what's your system for this open house? Just a trick question, right? He didn't have a system. It's like, you know, you're working for me and I have a system. He's like, yeah, I probably should have asked what the system was. It's like, yeah, you do. I want to ask what the system is, because that open house system started today. He's holding an open house on Sunday. The open house system starts today. The open house arrows go up. You start going out to the websites, posting the date for Sunday's open house. It doesn't matter if we sell the house between now and Sunday. We're still going to hold the house open on Sunday, because the purpose isn't necessarily that I'm going to sell the house. It's the purpose is to use it as a lead generation source. So what is your system? Promote and host. So when you're promoting it, what are you doing to get the most exposure possible to that open house? I mean, just running through some off the top of my head, the prospecting and promoting would be mailing to the houses right next door or on the street. Do you drop something off at the door with a special invite for them to get a sneak peek at what their neighbor's house looks like on the inside, right? Do you post it on all the websites that you can find for free? Where else are you putting it? So what is your system and how are you going to promote it? And then pursue the follow-up and convert. Every single person that comes through that open house, don't think of it like you're going to meet 5 buyers out of 5 buyers, then they're all buying right now, and they're all pre-approved, and they're all walking around with suitcases of cash. No, this is a follow-up process. And think about, I mean, I just like to share so you keep it in perspective that if you think about an open house and somebody just driving by the open house and just stopping, they probably aren't pre-approved yet. I mean, they could be, but they might not be pre-approved yet. They might not even be thinking about buying or selling, but they saw a house in their neighborhood come on the market, or a neighborhood that they would like to live in is having an open house. So they're like, hey, the open house, we just happen to be passing through here. Saw our friends or whatever that live close by. Let's go check it out. So the follow-up is key. So in our open houses, I just used a card stock. And I mean, an 8.5 by 11 card stock, but I would print 4, like you were registering for a contest at a local, whatever, community event, where you put your name and your address and all that stuff on a card and you drop it in the box. I just had those. So I could hand somebody a card so they could actually had a little bit of weight to it so they could write their name and number down, versus like a clipboard or anything like that where everybody's looking at their names. So, and it had a checkbox on there. Are you thinking about moving in the next 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 months to a year, 1 year to 2 years, or 2 years or more? And then it said, do you own your home or rent? So those were just 2 little things where they just checked a box and it helped us filter that. But that gave us the card with their information on it that I would turn over on the backside. It was blank, and I would write down, it was a mother, a daughter, and the wife, you know, because what I found is a lot of times they might put their husband's name down, you know, a wife might come through and put the spouse's name down, and he wasn't even there. So I was sending a note card to Jim. Hey, Jim, it was great to meet you at the open house. And Jim wasn't even, what open house was I at? He probably didn't even know the ladies went out or stopped by that. So I always made notes on the back of who came in and what we might have talked about. And that's what got updated into my database that night. And like I said, open house time was office time. So that's when I'd write my handwritten notes to everybody that came through. I'd just sit there and write notes. Thanks for popping by the open house. It was great to meet your family. Those particular ladies that stand out in my mind, it was so awesome to meet 3 generations of the Smith family, you know, whatever their name was. So it's just personalizing the note a little bit. Did not have a business card, did not have anything in it, because it was my first meeting and my first connection with them. And I dropped that in the mail. So another way to find out if they gave me Mickey Mouse's address or not, because the note would get returned if they didn't really give me their address. So it was always office time. I was always on duty looking for leads, not sitting in the living room watching a football game or something like that, right? I probably don't schedule open houses during those football games if I really want to watch the football game instead. Anyway, so the consumer, you know, do not call list. Obviously, we always bring that up just to make sure you know your do not call registry, that kind of stuff, if you're calling around for open houses. But that would be another, you hear a lot of agents talk about circle prospecting. I mean, if I'm holding an open house, why not call through the neighborhood, right? And invite them to the open house. Now, when you're cold calling, again, how do you get somebody to listen to you? I'm going to give you a fun script you can use, and you can have a lot of fun with this. It's like calling through the neighborhood, go, hey, this is Brad Korn with Keller Williams. And I don't know if you saw your neighbor's sign go up, and I'm sure you were wondering, what the heck did your neighbors just do, right? And I pause, and they're like, what'd they do? Well, they listed with us, and we're showing the house this weekend. That's what they did. But it sounds like, oh, look at what your neighbors did. I heard a friend, Michael Mayer, that wrote 7 Levels. He used to put signs in the yard right when he lists a property on an ugly yellow sign. It says, call 1-800 and find out what your neighbors did last night, or something like that. And it would call and say they chose the Mayor team to list their property. I thought it was genius. I loved it. Right. So same type of thing. But it's talking about systems. What is your system for setup? Yeah. What do you do on Monday? What do you do on Tuesday? What do you do on Wednesday? Do not take this stuff for granted, right? So Tuesday, well, for example, Monday, select the house that you're going to do. What's your target price range? What area do you want to be in, right? Secondly, Tuesday, post online, generate a call list. Call the 25 neighbors that are there and invite them over, right? Wednesday, post online. Install the consumer app, get the app on your phone so that you can just pull up other houses that they may have seen or buyers coming through the open house. Thursday, you're going to post online again on a different site, right? Put it on another site, spread it all out and get it everywhere. And then invite your database. Make sure your yard signs, I put my yard signs out on Monday. Email property information to potential buyers in your database, that kind of stuff. Friday, post online again. Okay, we're 2 days away from the open house, right? Prepare your market stats, comps, whatever, pulling up those properties that are on the market that you can have your lower list and your upper list. And then on Saturday, now they said post directional signs, but that's probably replacing the ones that are gone. If you're going to do this, go all out, man. Get 10 open house signs and use the heck out of them. But door knock the neighborhood and invite them to the open house tomorrow. You could do a live, some of the stuff that you could do today, you could do like a live video walkthrough, right? So right before the open house, you can also do that. I would probably, well, what I have done is the live Facebook walkthrough when we're getting ready for the open house, to walk through and say, it's going to be open this Sunday. And I would do that live, but I would save it to my phone so that I could repost it again throughout the week. Like on Wednesday, I'd repost it again. And it says, we're having this house open on Sunday. And then I would do another live one on Sunday when we get to the open house. So just massive exposure is what you're looking for. Plan for success, your location, your time, traffic patterns, local practices, all that stuff. I think I talked a little bit about that. Pick an area that you want to sell houses in, pick a price range that you want to do. Be cautious of holding an open house on something that's tucked way back on a private road that nobody can find. The purpose of the open house as a lead generation tool is to meet buyers who are also sellers. And when you've practiced feeding your database every single day with every person you met from this day forward, so if you've been attending these Ignites, it's every person from this day forward goes into your database. They get a conversation, a note, and then a drip plan to stay in touch with them. Well, same thing with here. Everything that you're doing, every inquiry, everything that you're getting them in the database and staying in touch with them. Try to separate yourself from the expected result that you're going to have a buyer that's going to sign a buyer agency and buy a house today, knowing that everybody's going to buy a house or everybody's going to move, and you're going to stay in touch with them over time. So it's just it gives you a great reason to meet people. So pick areas that are going to be busy, that you've got the best opportunity to meet the best people. In your area, are there any condo areas close by, or is it mostly neighborhoods? If you have condos, do you have condos? Condos are perfect for, like, one that I just had a buyer referred to us yesterday, looked up the condo that he really likes. There's 9 pendings in there, no actives. So I might hold, if you can do it, and it's not against the HOA, man, grab a condo building like that and hold one open in there, because people there's 9 pendings in there. we're probably going to have 20 or 30 people come through an open house in that building if we hold an open there, because they've all missed out on these 9 that are under contract and they want to get in there and see one. So that's another great, just think like, how do I get the most people possible and get the most traffic possible? All right, some door knocking. Actually, let me just, anybody have any questions or anything that you've ever wondered about open houses, or how you would do them, or where you would start, or anything like that?
On your cards that you were talking about,
yes.
So you asked, one of the questions, is there the address? Because how do you send them the thank you?
I'm so glad you asked, because when I set it up, if you can imagine a local fair or anything that you went to where you filled out something to win something, right? Ours is name, bold, address, bold, phone number, bold, and then smaller print, email. And it's not bold. Like, I make that email a little smaller, because remember, I've told you, I don't care about email when I'm starting a relationship, because I'm not going to gain that relationship through the email at all. Now, most people will just have name and email, and that gives you nothing to go. I cannot write the note. And if I can't write the note, it means that no matter how good my conversation was, I can't anchor on that with a nice note to make them feel good. I've got to get their address, right? So, and it's one of those things, when you hand them the card, you just hand them a pen and go, hey, if you just take a moment and fill that out for me, that'd be great. Right. And they just kind of take it and they just do it. And it's usually one of the right when they come in, I try to get that to them. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Be sure to let me know what you think. And if you take a moment and just complete that for me, that'd be great. And you just hand it and they take it away from you. It's just a natural human reaction. Right. And they just, most of the time they fill it. So we would get about 97% names, addresses, and phone numbers. So yeah, you still get your Mickey Mouse every once in a while. But it also had those 2 boxes checked at the bottom. Are you moving in the next 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 to year, that stuff. And the checkbox if they owned or rented. So, and then it was left, I think I might have even had just any other questions you have right here, but nobody ever fills that in. They just kind of do that stuff real quick. I make the notes on the back on who was coming through. So I appreciate you asking that. Address, address, address.
Yeah, because when they write the email, it's so difficult to even understand what they're writing.
Here's the thing. The email is the easiest thing to get, and it's actually the biggest worthless piece of information we have, because you can't move the relationship forward without it. Mm-hmm. They can ignore you. They can delete you in chunks if they're not expecting it. Email is perfect for somebody who's wants to get something from me, right? So if they want to get a list of the hottest, newest listings, then an email is going to be important to have, but I don't want to get it on the front end, because then that's all I have, right? So I appreciate that you've already recognized that. The second filter that I put this through is when Gary Keller asked a really silly question, or made a really silly statement about real estate. Because if you look at most people's databases, it is 95% email addresses with no address, right? And it might have phone numbers and all that stuff. But he asked a question once. He's like, let me just ask you guys, like, what do we sell? And I'll ask you, what do we sell? We sell what? What are we? What kind of agent are we?
Homes.
Real estate? Yeah, we sell homes. Mm-hmm. And we have databases with no addresses in it, and we sell homes. That's like being a car salesman and you have no idea what car's on your lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just insanity, right? So anyway, every filter I put through is we sell houses. So an address, I should have a database of houses that are occupied by people that are there at the moment, because we know they're going to leave that house. The house is going to stay there. So I really should have a database of houses in my community. And then I'm going to fill in the people that are living there today and see if I can be the guy that helps them get onto the next house, because I have every house in my database. I have a database of houses and the people occupy them. So it's a good way to think about real estate. Great question. All right, so let's just talk about door knocking too. Again, if you're going to do it, I say, what is your system? What is your system for open houses? The next part of your system is, how do you make your system get the most exposure possible, so that if you're going to sit there for 3 hours, because unless somebody is paying you $200 an hour to sit there, you're not getting paid anything, right? $200, $300, $500. The only way we get $500 an hour for sitting there is if we get a buyer out of it while we're sitting there, right? Then you're moving into the $500, $250 to $500 an hour range type work, but you get nothing for sitting in the open house. So nothing for, if you don't follow up, if you don't get the most exposure, you're kind of wasting your time. I'll usually let that slide for somebody new for a little bit, because you might have to experience that you're not going to sell a house in an open house and you don't automatically get a whole lot of traffic. You might have to figure out that it's going to take some thought. So I'll let you waste a couple open houses by just setting them up last minute. And then I'll go, so are you going to do that one next time? It's like, no, nobody showed up because it rained. Yeah. They also don't show up because it's sunny outside. They also don't show up because of a lot of other reasons. Mass marketing, as much as you can do impossible. So on your social media campaigns, name the campaign, like it's a campaign that you can turn on and run. You can do these in command where it will spit stuff out. Like we said, starting a week in advance, it will spit things out for a period of time in different days to different people, whether it's email, whether it's what, this or that. Select the goal for the campaign for the open house, and that is to get them to the open house. And then choose the social media platforms that you want to market your ad on. If I wanted maximum exposure, I would market them on all social media sites that I can possibly market them on. Again, don't forget MLS. Your MLS usually has one in there where you can put in an open house date. And I know realtor.com has one that you can put in there. All right. So the prospect stage, it's all about hosting the open house and capturing the lead through that form. So greeting everyone that comes into the house to build that rapport, just kind of greet them, handshake if you can, or even just kind of if you're already with somebody, just wave and say, hey, thanks for popping by. I'll catch up with you in a minute. Just feel free to go look around, right? Whatever you're doing. Obviously, now we bring up all the stuff about staging the house, making sure there's not valuables or breakables around or all that other stuff that you're doing for an open house. But you want to capture their information, their address specifically, and just greet them when they come in. I don't hit them right up front with anything major. I kind of let them get in and mosey around a little bit. But if you want to really engage them, just say, hey, would love to hear your feedback on the property. If you've been out looking for other houses, how it compares, or if there's anything you see in here that you like or don't like, or that we should have done differently for the open house. So you're actually asking them for their opinion. They'll play along with the game a little more that way. But once you get in there, just qualifying them, asking them questions like, so you guys came through the open house. How'd you hear about it? First of all, that's a really good one to track. So you know what's working and what's not working, right? And it's like, well, gosh, you got directional arrows everywhere. It's like, okay, I need to keep doing that one. But ask those questions like, so are you guys planning on moving? Is that why you came through the open house? Oh, no, we were literally just driving by. Oh, so are you maybe moving in the future? We thought we might think about it this summer. Okay, so I'm going to stay in touch with these people. No matter what they say, I'm going to stay in touch with them and build my relationship with them. But you're just asking those questions so that you can get to, if you could move, where would you move? And what's important about that area, that price range, that date, whatever, right? So that I can get that relationship going. Obviously, identifying willingness comes to that if they have been out looking, they've been missing some stuff. Oh, so where are you guys in the process? How long have you been looking and where are you in the process? Are you pre-approved? Are you got a suitcase of cash? And they usually laugh. And then they just kind of let them go, right? And then providing value, show them the neighborhood snapshot. So that is having that list of the other homes that are in the area and the price range. You could actually pull up a lot of neighborhood stats from command. You just got to play with it. This isn't necessarily a command class, but there are neighborhood stats that you can pull up, walkability scores, all these other things you can pull up from websites that you can have there as information, and or even convert that into a packet, right, to hand them and give them on the property. But again, that's probably not as big of a deal. I don't really give a lot of handouts. I mean, I've got some brochures and some MLS sheets with other stuff in case somebody's interested, but I'm not just handing them all flyers on the house. Why? Right? I'd rather them come to me and ask me questions if they like it. So, but do provide value on the neighborhood and or other properties that are for sale in the next price range down, or the next price range up. That would be the best thing you can offer them. Oh, I will tell you too that one of the scripts when we're talking to them is, you know, when you hand them the form and say, if you don't mind taking a moment to fill that out. Now, if I have a conversation with them and I've qualified them and they've been looking and they keep missing homes, that's where I'll throw in my instant notification script, right? Well, we have a free instant notification program that I can actually plug what you're looking for directly into the system that the real estate agents use. And I can get you these properties the second they come on the market, though. As soon as they hit go, when every other realtor in the area knows it's for sale, you will get it from me that it's for sale. And, you know, just check it out. If it looks nice, drive by it. If you still like it after you drive by, text me, call me, and I'll get you into the property. But that way you're not going to miss out on any other really good deals. We're going to get you properties instantly as they become available. So that's another way that now I'm taking that conversation one step further to get them to commit to work with me. And it's not so much about hammering them for buyer consultation and getting the buyer agency signed. However, that's the open door to do that. So when you say instant notification, I can get you these properties as fast as possible. If they're like really into it and they're really buying, I will say, and you know, it might even be good if we get together for about 15 minutes and I'll show you guys how to take advantage of the current market conditions. What's good next week, like Monday or Wednesday? And I'll show you how to take advantage of the current market conditions. That's getting them in for a consultation to sign a buyer agency. So it's just providing value. Here's the best thing. Here I talk about my old-fashioned card, and we have the capture form right in Command. It's right there in your app that you could have like an iPad there or something where you hand them and they just type their stuff in. I still kind of like the old school card thing though. It just, that way, if they don't know technology, you don't know that much about them. And also typing stuff into a computer means you're like going into the web and everybody has your personal information. So I think there still might be something to being able to still do it on that card stock or that form. That's also why I never really did a sheet like this where they're just on a clipboard where everybody puts their information for the next person to look at and see. I always handed them a card so that they could fill it out real quick. And it was just a couple quick things: name, address, phone number, email, and check the 2 boxes, right? Any questions? Jump in. So I love this part is the capturing your lead for the subdivision. Whenever you capture somebody in a subdivision and you've asked them, is this an area that you would like to live in? And they say yes. Then when you put them into Command, you can do the neighborhood page that sends them the market updates for that neighborhood to keep that neighborhood in front of you. You can do it by neighborhood. You can do it by area. You also, if they own their home, if they check the box own, you want to set that up for their neighborhood so they can see what's coming on the market and what they're going off the market for. So what I would suggest is if you're not super familiar with Command and everything that it does, play with it. Play with your app, play with Command, go to those classes in the Market Center where they're showing you some of these things just so you can start to see it and plug into it more. Now, if you're following the master plan that goes along with Ignite and you are pulling people off of your Facebook, you're pulling people out of your phone and you're putting them in a notebook, and then you're researching to find phone number and address for every single person in that notebook, and then you're pulling your notebook every single day, you're opening it and calling some of those numbers until 5 people answer. And then after those 5 people answer and you connect in a 2-way conversation, you go to Command and you add them. When you're in Command every single day, you'll always click on a couple other things and start looking. So 5 days a week, you're adding people into your Command, you're going to click on some buttons and find out where everything is. If you don't use it every day or use it once every so often, you're never going to know what's in Command. But if you're in it every day, if you just like set it to where that's the first thing you turn on is open your Command and have it open all day long, and you work real estate on your phone, it's a quick app, or like it's on your front screen, and you open it regularly and you're adding to it every day, you're going to find just how many cool things are actually in Command. All right, so prospect safety, or just when you're prospecting, safety first. Park on the street, meet the neighbors, never turn your back on a prospect, establish an escape route, let someone know where you are and when you'll be done, and make sure your cell phone's charged. So if you have a system in place, you're getting all your stuff that's always ready, right? I have a system for listings. I have the camera bag that has everything I need in it with the measurements or the tape measure, the camera, 2 extra memory cards, because I shoot my own photos, right? We do them with a really nice camera and we bring them into Photoshop because we have an instant on listing agreement. So that's my system, right? But in your open house system, do you have your signs together in one place? Do you have your safety kit or all your stuff together? So create a system and do it the same way every single time. And I say this like really like meeting the neighbors or calling someone on your phone. If you might have somebody on your team or a spouse or something that you actually have them on quick dial and you actually dial the number when you see somebody pulling in on the front door, and just dial the number and have your phone live, right? You don't know what people are doing today. Now that's not going to work if you got people flowing in and out, but then you probably are going to be pretty safe if there's that many people coming in and out of the house. Just have your system in place. And always think about safety. When you're showing a house, I mean, it's really not a bad idea to bring the key in with you. You know how many realtors leave the key in the doorknob while they go show the house and they don't lock the door behind them? I mean, anybody who sees a for sale sign with cars out front and the front door open is just an open invitation for trouble. So just always think about safety. This is probably the most critical thing I can share with you today is the funnel doesn't stop. You keep funneling every single person you meet from this day forward, whether it's at an open house or not. Every single person you meet this day forward goes into your database, into that cultivate bucket, so that you actually have a chance to turn them into an appointment or a sale and turn them into commission. It's not about necessarily the commission. It's about you helping them have a great experience in the real estate transaction that they only do once every 3, 5, or 7 years, and sometimes 10. So it's about them having a good experience, not so much about your commission dollar. All right, so let's talk about some best practices. Actually, before I go on any further, any questions about open house systems or anything there before we go into best practices? Okay. So some of the best practices, there's a lot of different things you could do. You can turn this into a real true event if you want. Hosting a speaker, having a giveaway, gifting giveaway, getting the house in showing condition. You definitely want to do that. I mean, you want to set aside any valuables, breakables. I mean, I have watched breakable things break. It almost never fails. If I do an open house and I saw something breakable and I don't move it, it gets broken at the open house. It just happens. But go live at the open house when you're starting the open house. Maybe even if you get a break and there's not too many people, doing it right before the open house is over. You'll say, hey, we got an hour left here at the house. We've had great traffic. If you want to come see this neighborhood and you're out and about, come on by, whatever it might be, right? But those are some of the best practices. Again, hosting a speaker could be, I don't know, like Home Depot. You could go there and see if they have some DIY stuff, or, you know, maybe your inspector could come talk about inspections. I've never done a speaker at an open house. It would be a pretty organized one. I will tell you that one thing we did do was a tour of homes. So we had a price range where 2 or 3 were in the same price range. This is when we had more listings. So I usually don't talk about it, but these would be all around the same price range. And then we'd bump it up about $50,000 to $100,000 for the next few houses. And then we bumped it up once more. So we would literally do like 1 to 2. The next house was open 1:30 to 2:30. The next one was open 3 to 4. And we actually had 2 people that we were just rotating. So as one ended, we would be headed over to the next one. We had a little gap in there for like 15 minutes drive. And we had them all close by, so that if somebody came, they could actually hit all of them. You know, they're going to be in the house 15 minutes or so. 15 minutes to drive to the next one, they could actually keep flowing through the open houses. So it just takes a little coordination, and you definitely need a system. All the lights on, best practices, turn on all the lights, make the house look as best as it can in showing condition. What I would do is I would go through any room that had a radio in it. I would turn on some like soft jazz or, you know, just some soft music, and I'd barely have it on, so you could almost not even tell it was on, but it was just giving that little, that I don't know, ambiance while they're walking through the house. Just pleasant music, things like that. Best practices on hosting. The do's is welcome the visitors at the door. Definitely try to get at least an eye, you know, connection with them so that they know, you know, they're there. Get the house in showing shape, and always think safety. Don't leave your valuables exposed. Don't have meals or snacks. I mean, guys, this is office time. You're working. Like, make it professional, right? And don't make assumptions. So that's just assuming that they don't look like they could afford the house or anything like that. Other things, here's your success kit. This is part of your system. Wipes, toilet paper. Oh, that'd be a good one to have, right? Paper towels in case something does spill or somebody brings something in and spills it. Pens, air freshener, and not super strong ones, just something very pleasant so it doesn't feel like you're trying to hide an odor. Extra business cards, backup battery to your phone, measuring tape, trash bags, tissue. Why the measuring tape? Somebody comes in and is like, I wonder if our bed would fit in here. Oh, do you know how big it is? And you can show them, right? Or, you know, whatever. That's if somebody's interested, right? So just like a whole kit that you can put together, right? All right. And then follow up. Let's talk about that. So the follow up is every single person that you can get your information from, that you're going to have a good conversation with. Casual conversation. You're going to write them a note because you got their address, and you're going to add them to your database, and you're going to cultivate them. So if you had an open house and you were in person, they're probably going over into that contact side versus a lead side. The lead side are those people you haven't met before that are on blast marketing stuff to try and get the message to get them to convert over and pick up the phone and call you. But they're probably going to be more on the contact side where they have become, you've talked to them a little bit. You're going to write them a nice note. Thank them for coming to the open house. Forget about the words I, me, or my in the note. Really just, it was so great meeting you. Glad to see you like the house in the neighborhood and spending time with your daughter and your mother, you know, going through the open house thing. It was great to meet you, Brad. I mean, just write those notes so that it's about them, right? And that will cultivate them. You put them on an 8x8, and then after that, you put them on a 36 touch, and you over time will gain their trust and be top of mind so that when they are ready to do something, they call you. So that's about it. What did you get out of the call today? I'm going to go to the review because I would like to know whether you're doing open houses or not. If you were going to do one, how did we do today? Like, did we give you some good information that you can actually use to have the best open house possible? So what I'm going to do is throw this in the chat, and the little system here is to click that so that it will open up another tab, so that when we close this out, the tab's already open for you to plug my name in there, your market center, and give us some feedback on this session on what you got out of the open houses. But let me just maybe even just open it up if anybody wants to jump in and share what you might have taken away from today. One thing you might have taken away from today.
For me, it's the importance of having a system. That's not just, you know, not just the day. You have to start, you know, a week at least in advance, and have something for every day.
Every day. I love that you shared that, because I literally just had that conversation with a buyer's agent that joined our team, that we have all these systems, and he doesn't necessarily know all the systems, but he also doesn't think in the system mindset yet. Like, think about it. Everything you're doing, we already have a system for it. So if you don't know what the system is, what would you do? Ask. So how do you show a house? Oh, we got a whole system for that. It's like, man, he wasn't even thinking about open house or just showing a house as a system. Because if you just like open the house and you walk in and you're excited about showing them the house, oh shoot, where did I set the key down? Or, you know, I locked the door behind me and the key's inside the house. If you don't have a system, then you're going to have things that pop up, right? That just catch us off guard. So your open houses of anything, I would say, you're taking hours away from your family. So make it count. Make that be the open house that you pick up 2 or 3 buyers from, that your family's going to be able to get some benefit out of that through maybe an extra sale a week to go to Disneyland if you have little kids or whatever it might be, right? So I really appreciate you noticing the system part of this whole thing, because that is huge. Everything is a system.
Yeah.
Great. Anybody with anything else before we close out? If you would click on that link for the review, that's how you'll get me back to help you with more stuff, more tricks, more scripts, more real world stuff. They'll keep me around a little longer if you tell them how awesome today was.
That's what I just wanted that question. Is there
yes, absolutely.
Is there like a script that that you learned from, or are you just like the important questions that are necessary, like to ask during the open house, or just
at the open house,
the ones that you said?
Well, it is really just say, so where are you guys at in the process? How did you hear about the open house, or how'd you end up here today? I like to know that, right? And so are you in the market to look for a house? Are you guys moving? And whatever they're going to say, either they're not or they are or whatever. If they are, then I'm just rolling through the normal script. So, okay, so where are you at in the process? How many houses have you looked at? Have you started the pre-approval process? And I'm pausing in those questions, right? But ultimately, the script comes back to, let me show you how to take advantage of the current market conditions. That's my favorite script of all. Let's take advantage of the current market conditions. And when can we get together for 10 minutes? I'll show you how to do that. So you can take advantage of the current market conditions. That's my favorite one-liner.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're just a couple minutes over, but I'm going to go ahead and end it. Hopefully you clicked on the review. You'll fill that out for me, and we'll see you on Wednesday.